Well, the weather has warmed up, the trees have responded, all my starts have been planted, and now it is time to feed the garden. I recently watched a video where someone described gardening as very much like conducting an orchestra. The plants know what to do, but you, as the conductor, have to provide the organization that allows the orchestra to do what it knows to do. My role, then, at its most basic, is providing a good soil and light environment. I also attempt to companion and interplant so that each plant, while performing their role, helps the other plants around them. I accomplish that last part by keeping in mind which plants work well together, so this way I can get maximum production from my small space without resorting to chemical fertilizers. I often plant peas and beans with other crops like corn and cucumbers that are heavy nitrogen feeders, so the beans that are nitrogen fixers will give them some of the nitrogen they need, although I do use fish emulsion. Or I've planted green onions in between collards to ward off pests, and garlic in between strawberries to help with slugs. Once my nasturtiums in the floating planters come up, I hope they'll act as a trap crop to help combat aphids in the other beds. However, I've noticed that the collards were shading out the onions, so it was time to give them some sunlight by harvesting collards for an evening meal. That done, I set the collards in water to prevent wilting while I finish feeding the garden. I create compost in a bucket that I fill with kitchen scraps and other greens or browns. I even save my coffee grounds in tea bags, and then turn the bucket over occasionally. The bucket has holes all around the sides, so air is able to get in. In about 18 to 30 days, I have compost that I add to spots around the beds. This is strong stuff, and the worms love moving around the beds to find it, and it helps the soil overall. But the simplest way I've found to feed the soil and provide nutrients is by adding leaf mulch. I collected these leaves from my yard and from bags my neighbors put out for pickup. I try not to use grass clippings unless I know where they came from, because some people use pesticides on their lawns. It's also important to remember that if you lay down leaves, they tend to blanket and take a long time to break down. To prevent this, I use a paint stirrer to grind the leaves up so that breakdown occurs quickly and the soil and worms are able to make faster use of them. I got the drill I use for the paint stirrer at a garage sale for $2. Once the leaves are ground up, I spread a layer over all the beds. I guess I could have picked up that flower pot, but I was laser focused. Adding ground up leaf mulch like this is almost like composting in place, while also providing ground cover. I'll come back in about a month to add more as the leaf mulch disappears into the soil. Now that I've fed all the beds, it's time for the garden to feed me. Ask anyone in my family and they'll tell you I am not a great cook, but the garden makes simple meals easy. I brought in the collards and began the process of removing the leaf stems. I like cutting up the stripped leaves in big chunks, so once they're cooked, I can cut them into smaller sizes on the plate. I usually double wash the greens just to get off any grit from the garden. That done, I simply place them in a pot along with a little ham, water, and seasoning, and then allow them to slow cook. About 2 hours later, there is dinner. And after dinner, I place the collard stems in my compost bucket for the process to begin again. See you next time.